Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you may be listening to us across the entire globe. You're listening to Tarot Today Live. I'm Dax Carlisle, coming to you live from Tucson, Arizona, and joining me is the fabulous Mary Brown, live from Amarillo, Texas. Mary, how's it going?
Hey, Dax.
Yeah.
Good. Happy Monday.
Happy
Hi,
Monday.
everybody.
I bet a lot of people are not happy it's Monday, but we love Mondays.
Why not?
Yes.
Why not? What's not to love?
Awesome.
We get to connect with everybody on Mondays. That's what makes it good.
Absolutely. And for those that we are simulcasting on Blog Talk Radio. We are live streaming on YouTube. If you're listening to us on Blog Talk Radio, go to tarottoday.live. Just open a new tab in your browser, type in tarottoday.live. That'll take you right over to our YouTube channel. At the top, you'll see the current live. Just click on that. You can join us in the comments. There's a chat box on the right there, at least on desktop. I know it's different on phones. But
it's always different on a phone.
Yeah, so you can actually see us live. You can see our cameras and you can chat with us if you don't want to call into the show. But we would rather you call in and chat with us. Right, Mary?
Yes, we would love to hear what you have to say and hear your little voices from all over the world.
What's that phone number, Mary?
Yes, the phone number. Yeah, okay. God, 714-816-4628. Easy to remember. 714-816-4628. Be sure to press the number 1 on your dial pad because it raises your skinny little alien arm in the air, and we know you want to be want to be on the air with us.
Yeah, for those of you that are like, what are they talking about? It actually looks like that, you know, on the switchboard next to your phone line. Yeah. It has your phone number, and then it has the skinny little white hand.
Skinny little alien arm.
Yeah, the alien arm. So we will be getting to calls and the chat and everything a little later in the show.
Yeah.
We got some interesting stuff coming up today. Mary did a fabulous interview with Frans Steine on Reiki. So it's a little bit different. Yeah, I know we're a tarot show, but anything even vaguely related, we're going to get into because Mary's into Reiki, crystals. I'm into hypnosis, NLP. You know, you're going to hear all kinds of stuff on this channel. So we got this fantastic interview with Frans. Before we do the card of the day and the numerology of the day, Mary, do you want to tell people a little bit about Frans?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, if you're into Reiki, you've got to know Frans Steine. He's just amazing. He's like one of the co-founders of the International House of Reiki. Like co-wrote the Reiki source book, Reiki A to Z pocket guide, Reiki. I mean, he's the guy you want to read his work. You want to, follow the International House of Reiki. And for me, I was so thrilled to like talk to him. He's like, someone I just really admire a lot. And I have his Reiki Techniques card deck. Now this is out of print and like so beloved and so coveted. And it's just a card deck full of like different Reiki techniques, like some traditional, some not so traditional. And I'm actually going to share one as my card of the day today.
Wow. So perfect timing. Go ahead and do that now. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. So this is really easy. You don't have to be into Reiki or even know what it is to be able to do this technique. And this technique is for grounding, and you see the little illustration, you see where the person, you see like the little chakra wheel, like at the abdomen, at the knees, and at the feet, and on the head. And so what you want to do to ground yourself, right? And you can do this any time of the day or whatever. We use it for grounding, but it's actually called a centering technique. And so you want to start out by placing your hand on your forehead and behind your head, right? And you just like breathe into that, and you're working with the intention. The thought in your head is that you're connecting to the earth. This is grounding your energy just for a few seconds. And then you take both hands and put it on your abdomen. Breathe in, breathe out. Think of connecting to the earth. I'm grounded. I'm centered. That's like you can keep like saying that in your head or out loud. I'm grounded. I'm centered. Then put your hands on your knees. Do the same thing. And then I have to reach for my feet, over the top of your feet, and do the same thing. And so you do that, the forehead, the abdomen, the knees, the feet, each time, and just do it a few times until you really are feeling that energy. Like, yes, I'm grounded, I'm centered, I'm ready for whatever the day has to bring. And again, that's from the Reiki Techniques card deck, Heal Yourself Intuitively by Bronwyn and Frans Steine. And Frans is,
Yeah.
I mean, not only is he like this world recognized expert on Reiki, literally has written all the books. His new book coming out is called The Way of Reiki, The Hidden Teachings of Usui. And that's what I interviewed him for.
Folks. Link in the description to the book.
Yeah, and the book is phenomenal. I mean, I really feel like going forward, this should be essential reading because, everybody, regardless of what kind of Reiki they do, they usually, the first kind of Reiki that they use is Usui Reiki. And so this is like getting us more into the mindset of Usui, the founder of Reiki, Mikao Usui, the Japanese founder of Reiki. And Frans went to Japan, to learn how they do it there. And just, world renowned because he's been everywhere, and he tours and teaches everywhere too, and even still gives Reiki sessions to people.
Awesome. Yeah. The first time I actually heard the story and all about Usui and it being brought over and everything was actually in Sharona's Angel Reiki course. And Sharona is in comments right now in the chat room. Hi, Sharona. I want to shout out to her. There's other people in there too. Okay, so Mel's in there, and
hey, Mel. Hey, Sharona.
Nikitha and Rashmi. There was a comment about the delay. So some people that they're on Blog Talk and then they go to the YouTube live to watch us, and there's a delay in the audio. Yeah, there's going to be a huge delay, and part of that is the Blog Talk studio. There's already a delay in the studio. Yeah. So my recommendation is if you're dialed in, just put the phone down and watch the YouTube live and turn the audio up on that. And then when we go to phone calls, just make sure you turn the audio off on your YouTube. Otherwise there'll be a feedback loop. But that's how you can get our voices synchronized if it's getting a little confusing for you. I never thought to announce that, but yeah, that gave me the opportunity to let everybody know. So the numerology today, real quick, we're still obviously in the 6 year, but today is also 6. 2 + 4 is 6, the 24. So it's that nurturing energy. 6 is also the number of success. You see that in the 6 tarot cards. There's also a return to balance and harmony after the chaos of 5. And then the entire date. So we're adding the month number 10. That's 1 + 6 + 6. So you get 13. 1 + 3 is 4. It is that number of structure. And for the card of the day, I got this card here. I'll try to make it so you can see it. 3 of coins. So I think what's going on today is it's talking about work or whatever your passion projects are. And what's going to happen is, and that's the main card, but I pulled some qualifier cards and I got the 2 of Wands, and you can see that there are 2 different paths you can go down. So what I'm going to say about this is in your career, or a project you're working on, or work, or anything along those lines, and you come up and you're presented with two different paths you can go down today, in alignment with that 4 energy, I got the Emperor. Number 4. So what this is saying is whichever of the two paths that you could go down gives you the most structure. You're looking for structure. And that's it. That's the message from the tarot and numerology today, October 24th, 2022, as we get closer and closer to Halloween on the 31st. And folks, if you don't know, not only is it Halloween on Monday the 31st, it's also the 18th birthday of the Tarot Guild. So we'll be celebrating and taking your phone calls on Monday the 31st. We'll be doing a simulcast just to let everybody know and get prepared for all that. So
it'll be a party.
Absolutely. So we've got this great interview with Frans that we're just going to play it for you. It's going to be the first time me seeing the whole thing. And we're all going to watch this interview that Mary did. It's fabulous, the parts that I saw. And then we'll come back live right after the interview. Right, Mary?
Yeah. And look at the comments and maybe take a call or two. It'll be fun. You know, I'm excited for everybody to see the interview and hear what Frans had to say. Yes. He was lovely to talk to.
Grab your cup of coffee, grab your tea or juice or whatever.
Grab the popcorn.
Yeah. Your martini lunch, whatever you're doing. Hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere all the time, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and those 3 martini lunches, right? So grab whatever and let's have some fun watching this. And I'm gonna share the screen right now. There you go. You got that, Mary, on your end?
Yeah.
All right.
There it is.
Just checking all that technology, make sure everything's working here. And here we go. Frans Steine on Reiki.
So welcome to the Tarot Today live show. Uh-oh. I don't hear the audio.
Hold on, technical issues. Let's try it again.
So welcome.
Are you hearing the audio now?
The Tarot Today live show, Frans. Yes. It's so great.
Okay, I think I figured out what it is. I was trying to mute my mic so you won't hear any background noise during the video, and it turns the audio off, folks. I apologize about that. Let me get it started, and I'm just going to have to be quiet.
That'll be good.
So here we go, folks.
So welcome to the Tarot Today live show, Frans Steine. It's so great to meet you and to talk about your new book, The Way of Reiki.
Yeah, really interesting. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
So, so many of us, I think, listeners to the show, viewers of our channel and stuff, they're really familiar with Reiki, but in a more mainstream sort of way. And that's not even to say that Reiki's really become quite mainstream yet. But they're familiar with your work if they're familiar with Reiki, right? That's the way I look at it. It's like, this is, for us in the West, this is the source. This is the source. Yeah. And because we also have a cardomancy community, tarot community that listens to the show, this is one of my most treasured possessions.
Oh, wow. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And I've gone to a lot of Reiki circles, with friends, and I always pull this out like, look, you can look at the treasure. So it's just why, because I feel like you've said so much about Reiki. Why another book, and where did this come from? Where do you think it came from?
The new book really came from my own personal direct experience. So I've been training with a Japanese priest since 2012 in Japan, and it's got a small little temple, and it's really difficult to actually train with these kind of people. You can't go there and pay them. You have to be invited or you have to be recommended, and that all takes a long time. So yeah, through working with him, lots of things changed for me and the perceptions changed. And so therefore felt this new book was really coming out of my own. I'm not like a writer and I go like, now I'm going to write a book and it's going to have this in it. It's kind of percolating within myself. And then suddenly I go like, boom, and then it comes out and that's it.
And that's inspired writing. That's the best kind. That's the very best kind.
Yeah, for me, it definitely works that way. I'm not so good when someone says, oh, Frans, can you write an article about this? And I go like, But yeah, it really needs to come from my own personal direct experience. And I hope people will feel that when they read The Way of Reiki, the Inner Teachings of Mikosui, when they can really feel that quality behind it, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the thing is, this idea of the inner teachings of Usui, how can we know, in a sense? Because I feel like in the book, you're trying to kind of put together, you're trying to kind of bring us into his world, his mindset, kind of, all the things he was exposed to. But, how do we get into that from so far away in time and space?
Yeah, ultimately, we would never know, of course, whatever he might have taught, but the tools he left behind, when we look at those, and we go deeper into these tools, then we can see where he borrowed them from, and then what was a more traditional element of it, and then why then would he have used those tools in his system. And when you put it all together, and then not only that, but then when you actually apply those tools in a very specific ways, then we might have the direct experience. So it's like, of course, we can read a cookbook from someone in the 1800s, but then we have to actually look at the recipe. Then we can see where they took maybe some of those ingredients around that time from, but then we have to cook it and eat it, and we have to do it again and eat it again. And that way we get a really direct experience of what Mikosui was trying to say. And ultimately for me, I always bring it back to the precepts, just be kind and compassionate, and that in itself is so healing, particularly these days where we so I'm now teaching in the US. I hear so many people talking about this division, and it's really obvious these days. And we don't really look at that much in Holland. So just be kind, I think, is already so profound and so difficult as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about the precepts as well, because I do feel like the way we learn Reiki, and I feel like, we meaning like the majority of people, maybe the big numbers. Okay. The big numbers of people seem to be learning Reiki online, maybe on, teaching platforms like Udemy or Teachable or whatever, like not even, having their hands on anything but their computer, and, I've done both, I've done in person and I've done that, and I also feel that in both ways, the precepts are minimalized. They're like at the beginning. And for me, it's always been like, wow, I don't use the precepts unless I am sure that I can hold to them for that day. I feel like it's a vow. And I feel like everything's within that. I feel like it's like, if we can really not worry, not anger, to be kind, you know.
That would be amazing, right?
That's hard.
We would live in a whole different world. Yeah. I wish more of these teachings, and more people would focus on the precepts, because it's so profound, and it's, I always say it's not so much about feeling energy. That's quite easy. You just stick your finger in a PowerPoint. And, seeing some colors and lights is also easy. You hit yourself with a metal bar on the head. And if you hit hard enough, you probably see the white light. So that's great, easy done. But actually to live that life of being kind and compassionate, and then also a kindness, compassion, what doesn't change according to circumstances, and not say, oh yeah, but I'm really compassionate, and then yeah, but you're only compassionate to this and not to that. So it's like changing constantly. Yeah. And for me, this is really what, if we really look closely at the system of Reiki, that was really what Mikasa was trying to teach. Yeah. Hands-on healing was a very small part of that. So, yeah, I really explore that in the way of Reiki in the teachings of Mikasa in my new book, really exploring this in a more deeper way, because I think this is so much needed. Hands-on healing ultimately is our birthright, right? When we fall over, we put our hands on our knee, or when our kid falls over, we put our hands on them.
We do it naturally.
It's naturally, but this state of kindness is so important. And also I always say, if I walk in town, I'm here now in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I cannot walk around town, lovely little town, and put my hands on everybody, right? It's impossible. I get arrested. And but I can walk around town and just be kind, and that in itself is already profound healing.
Yeah. And, I can't tell you how many bizarre, kind of conversations, we have with each other in the Reiki community about how they're phrased. And I really love that you show us the spectrum of meaning in your book. And not only with that, but with everything. I mean, my God, Frans, this has to be essential. This book has to be essential, I would think, for Reiki people. Really, just the word Reiki even. But, we argue about the syntax, the little language thing. Like my thing, I remember my big thing was, I had taken from a woman that was teaching, be kind to others, yourself, and every living thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm drawing the line here, okay? Because if there is an ant biting me, right, on the hand, and I'm allergic to ant bites, I'm not going to be kind to it. I can, understand the situation. It's going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kill it. And that's not a kind act. I'm being kind to myself, maybe. But, what's important about these things? What's important about the words?
Well, therefore, ultimately, we can read a book. It's like, again, I like this comparison. Like, if I'm hungry, I can read a cookbook, but it doesn't still my hunger. And I can contemplate about the cookbook and the recipe, but again, it doesn't still my hunger. I have to implement it. I have to cook it. I have to make it. I have to eat it. And that is ultimately also with the system of Reiki. If they're just dry words, what we repeat as a little parrot, then it doesn't make any sense. So therefore, when we look again at the system of Reiki, there were very specific meditation practices. There were symbols and mantras to go within yourself to really purify, heal yourself from these attachments, is worry, anxiety, anger, fear, etc., so that we can lay bare this great bright light of love and compassion, what is unchangeable. And therefore, I think when we look at the system of Reiki, now we say Reiki and we think about hands-on healing, but when we look at the system of Reiki as a whole, we see a whole path there to self-awakening ultimately.
Do you think it's like a practice? It's like a daily practice. Do you think it's a spiritual practice?
Oh, definitely. I see it as a way of life. I don't even see it as something I do, say, before work and then I go and work, or my daily life and hang out with friends. For me, it needs to be integrated in all we do. And I think this is generally what we get confused with. Now we say, I'm going to have yoga in the morning, and then I forget about the rest of your day. But the yogi or yogini, actually, the name implies living in this state of non-duality and not necessarily doing an asana, but actually a daily life of being yoga. And it's the same with all of these other teachings. But now we've seen it so external from our daily life. And I think this is also why we find it very difficult to make progress in a lot of these spiritual practices, because we're not integrating it into our daily life. We see it very externalized of, with our friends or going to the bar or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, that's the thing that I also wonder is like, what is, if you were starting out right now, and you just heard about Reiki, what do you wish like had been your first step that maybe you would take now, that you would know now, like, this is where I want to begin?
Definitely the more internal progress and process. Like when I first learned the system was Reiki, it was very external. I remember the guy actually who was teaching me, this was in Kathmandu, Nepal. He was smoking a joint while he was teaching me. It's fine, of course, but it was very externalized. You get the attunement and you just do hands-on healing on someone else. But then I was lucky because I met different healers around Nepal, and I lived in Darjeeling for a year. Lots of people who were doing healing, all sorts of form of healing. And when they touched you, man, it was a whole different ballgame. Like the amount of energy, the spaciousness, what was being triggered. And I go like, I want what they have. And when I inquired how they stimulate that within themselves, was all through different meditation practices and contemplation about the eye, for example. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to go to Japan and train with Japanese teachers to see how it was traditionally taught within Japan.
Well, how easy was that? Because sometimes, we get the sense that because, we're coming from a different culture, a different thing, that, there's these secret practices that, outsiders can't, get into. How did it go? How did you work with that kind of cultural difference coming from a different background, and how were you accepted?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. What is really interesting, my teacher, for example, when I asked them about because there is a practice, what is called Mikyo translated as secret teachings. And then they say it's not really secret. It's just that when you practice, you will rediscover it for yourself. And before you start to practice, it might look secret because they give you certain teachings and then you apply it for yourself. And then you realize it's been there all the time within your own self. And it's really tricky. I did train with Japanese Reiki teachers, quite a few, and then I still wasn't really satisfied what I was looking for myself. We all have a different journey, and so I knew this Tendai Buddhist priest, and I'm not a Buddhist per se. I don't like all these labels. For me, just, if we look at our essence is not Buddhist. Our essence is also not Reiki. It has no label, right? It's just great, bright light, luminosity. And so after I worked with this guy for about 10 years, and I said, look, I really need to find someone very specific I was looking for. And he said, okay, now I know you're very dedicated with working with you for 10 years. I can introduce you to this priest, but remember, he's very eccentric. I said, I don't mind. I like those eccentric, quirky people, because they, for me, it's easier for them to step out of that box, when they're a little bit more eccentric.
Yeah.
And so he wrote me an introduction letter, and then this particular priest sent me like an email with I don't know how many questions what he wanted me to first answer before he took me on board.
Wow.
And even now, if I would come, like the last time I went there, and I flew in from Australia. I'm living in Holland now, but at that time I was living in Australia. And so I went there, and I flew in, then with the train. Then he waits for me at the bus stop. And he opens the door of the car. I hop in. He kind of not even says hi, and he says, okay, show me first the practices we learned And then, I have to show him right there, right then in the car. And I definitely believe if I could not have done it without a piece of paper out of my head, out of my whole being, he would have probably stopped the car and said, opened the door and said, okay, I've taught you, but you haven't really implemented it. So you better go home.
Wow.
So it's a little bit like saying, like, again, as a chef, or we train someone, comes for training and say, okay, go make this recipe. They go home, they make it once, and then 6 months later or a year later, this man comes to the chef again and said, show me. Well, I don't know how to cook it. I need a recipe. Then it means they have not been practicing.
Right. No, and I can say this though, that kind of experience, that kind of opportunity to learn from that kind of teacher, seems so rare.
Yeah, I've been very lucky in my life to meet at the right time the right teachers. In India, in Australia, I worked with a Taoist teacher for a long time. He was Chinese and brought up in China in a Taoist family from the age of 3 already practicing, and so I've been very fortunate also in Japan to meet of those teachers.
How did you even get on this path? I mean, what was there a spiritual experience? Was there an epiphany? How do you go from just regular guy to Reiki, king,
Reiki. I've got live audience here. They're laughing here.
Yeah, really?
That's cute. I was actually a party person. I loved partying, and I would go out 3, 4, 5 times a week, dancing and drinking till it was about 30. And then we went to India, and I wasn't feeling that well at that time. I always had, from when I was a kid, a lot of lower back problems. They put me in plaster, and they said, well, just keep taking painkillers and physiotherapy. We can't do anything about it. And when you grow older, it will only be worse.
Jeez.
And then also I was, through all of that and relationship, etc., I felt very unstable. So when I arrived in India, we went up to Ladakh. It's called Little Tibet, beautiful area in the Himalayas, like absolutely stunning. And I was talking about that I wasn't feeling that well to a few people. And this one guy said, well, there's a local lady doing some healing. Why don't we go there tomorrow? And it was in a very small house. This woman from a Tibetan tradition, seen as shamans, as healers. Their practice is really, really tough. So there's only a few about. And she was chanting in the corner. We all had to sit. The room was packed with local people. And we were 4 or 5 foreigners. And we had to sit at the back. And we told we could not participate, but we could watch. And so one by one, this woman is calling people forward. She touches them, does something, says something all in a language I don't understand. And it's kind of finished, and she's standing there, and suddenly she goes, oh, you one of the foreigners needs to come. And she points to me, and I get forward, and I point towards my back where it hurts, and she touched me, and I'm gone. I don't know where I am. I feel so spacious. I'm crying. I feel the heat going from my crown to my toes, like tremendously. And if you've told me it was 1 second or 1 day or 1 month, I would have believed you all of it, because it was in this very timeless space. And then I sat back and I go, what the hell just happened here?
Right.
And then the next day, not necessarily that I suddenly magically felt physically better or emotionally better, but all I wanted to do was buy books on spirituality. And that was very unusual for me. So I started to buy books on yoga, Ayurveda, Taoism, and one day I bought a Reiki book, and the rest is history.
Wow. And, kind of going back to your chef metaphor, your chef in cooking, are you a good cook, by the way? Why is this special for you?
Not really, actually. I would love to actually learn better cooking. I'm just a very basic cook, but I find these metaphors for me help me to really, I started work when I was 17. I didn't like school. So for me, I don't like all that intellectual stuff too much. Don't make it too difficult. Give me simple metaphors, what I use in daily life. And this is also what I try to do in my class. And like I was just teaching here, and it's just so great to see when we keep it simple, when we keep it clean. It's so easy for myself. And I think it's also easier for other people to understand.
Well, yeah. I often think that, if that's the point, is to be understood, and, then it should be kind of simple to get across, because otherwise it's just showing off.
Wow,
Look at my vocabulary. It's amazing.
Yeah. I sometimes, people give me books. I would not often buy some books when so I look through the book and I go like, man, I need a dictionary on the first page already. Like, and then to look up 6 words. I don't understand what
how enjoyable. Right? How
Yeah.
enjoyable is that? And how much this stays with us. But your book, you've got a lot of wonderful accolades and compliments from people, including John Cleese.
Yeah, actually, I was asked to
explain.
I was asked to do a session with John Cleese. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it due to COVID to the UK. I think he's fantastic, and I'm acquainted with a good friend of John, and so we chatted, and so I said, "Oh, would John like to write something for my book?" And he said, "Well, John normally doesn't do it." And he said, "Actually, I'm with John right now." So, and so when we were chatting, he said, "Okay, but he's willing to just write a little thing about Reiki." I said, "Oh, that's great. Better something than nothing, of course." And so we're still trying to each time. For example, in LA, then John is away. I was just in LA, and we tried to meet up, but it didn't work. So maybe one day.
Yeah, I hope so. I've interviewed him. I hope you get to meet him in person. But no, I saw that and I'm like, okay, hold the phone. This isn't, I don't see that in a Reiki book,
No, but I think for me also, what I try to do in my classes as well, for me is I like humor. I like playfulness. I like having fun, and for me, spirituality is not just sitting there being holier than whole. And, like sometimes and don't get me wrong, sometimes I see people teaching and it's always very kind of spiritual voice is being put on as like an act. And then I think, wow, I mean, if I would do this, that would not be me. That would be just some acting. And then I would be tired at the end of the day. So, I always like to have we laughed so much in the last few days, and I don't care. It's just for me, because it's spirituality is laughter, is interwoven in life, is playfulness, is sexuality, is enjoying life to its fullest.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, laughter to me is so connected to joy.
Yeah.
How is that not spiritual? I mean, what's more spiritual than joy? I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah.
But one thing that I wanted to ask you is if you could share with us, people so many people out there are, into Reiki. They either are getting Reiki treatments or they're learning Reiki. They're doing it in a group session or they're doing it one-on-one. There's so many different, and distance healing with crystals. And then there's angel Reiki. And then there's, the holy fire Reiki, I mean, my goodness.
Smurf Reiki. No, I'm just kidding.
But really every kind of Reiki, unicorn Reiki, I mean, what can you tell people about this? What do we need to know? What's the one thing if we just want some Reiki? What flavor?
I mean, I always bring it back to just be kind. If that healing can trigger that we feel a little bit less angry in our life, that we feel a little bit less worried in our life, that we feel a little bit more grateful in our life, that we can be a little bit more true to our way in our being and a little bit more compassion to our life. That is great, and I don't see it. Sometimes you read it too, like, oh, this energy is more powerful. Then I go, wow, man, this is just, about competition. This is less powerful. This is more powerful. And ultimately is not that great bright light. Your essence is love. It's not competition. It's actually the opposite. So we have to be very careful with those kind of elements also, that we don't get sidetracked. And also it's not about necessarily seeing energy or reading auras. And don't get me wrong, it's nice, but sometimes that can also be counterproductive. I meet many people and they say, oh yeah, but I can read energy, and then it becomes almost an ego trip, and then the compassion is gone, the kindness is gone. It becomes really like boosting our ego. And therefore I love the precepts, because they are such a good guideline for our daily life, and it's the opposite about being egoistic or trying to be, oh, look at me, I can do this, I see this or do that, or I can feel energy. And for me, therefore, is really important. Can we look in the mirror when we practice, after we practice in our daily life, and actually say, yes, through our practice, I have become a little bit more kind and compassionate to my fellow human beings, seeing them in a more non-dualistic way.
Yeah. And the thing that's kind of interesting about all of this really is that, what is Reiki?
This is the crux of it all, right? So in a way, when we look at that, in the system of Reiki, there's that word of great bright light or luminosity, or we can call it awakening or whatever we call it. Ultimately, that space of our true nature is not Tibetan, is not Japanese, is not Dutch or American, is neither called this or that, is wide open. All these things are just labels we've put upon it as cells to give it some structure. So the structure of the system of Reiki is hands-on healing, working with certain meditation practices, symbols and mantras, the precepts and Reiju or attunement initiation. And it's the same, the practice of yoga is asanas, mantrayana, etc. But the quality, what arises from that is not yoga, is not Reiki, is not. This is why I like the Taoist phrase, if you can name the Tao, it's not a Tao, because we cannot name it ultimately. We cannot stick a label on it, because as soon as we stick a label on it, we're already stuck to something. And then we might say, oh, Taoism is better than yoga, is better than Reiki, or Reiki is better than this. And then we're already away from this path. So for me is don't try to stick labels on it. Ultimately, be completely free.
Yeah. And, does Reiki come to a person without, that hasn't been trained in Reiki? Because what I'm thinking of, like, can we look at it this way, that this I don't even want to call it this energy. I'm already labeling it. I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
This great bright light,
Yeah.
How far away is that from any of us? I mean, really? And isn't learning Reiki, learning how to work with it? I mean,
that's it. I think often in the beginning, a lot of people see it as something very, very far away. And then through practice, we realize it's right smack bang here, right now, in your own being. It's not something outside of yourself. But, if we start sometimes and we say, oh, look at your inner light. A lot of people say, inner light, I've been in the dark for 20 years. What the hell are you talking about? So in the beginning, we see it quite external. But ultimately, I always say, if you think about the universe or universal energy, then I say, what do you need to do to practice or to touch it? And ultimately, we don't have to do anything to touch it, because we're being touched by it 24 hours a day, right? Inside and outside. So ultimately, that healing ability is there with us 24 hours a day, except we feel so disconnected from it. Like now, even I was just saying that in a class, we say, oh, I'm going to walk in nature, but we are nature. We don't have to walk in nature, but we feel so far removed from it that we say, oh, I'm going to walk in nature. We completely forgot that we are actually nature.
Yeah.
What is actually quite ridiculous, right? So therefore, we feel so disconnected from this universal energy. And then we say, okay, now I'm doing a practice and now I'm in it and now I go to work and now I'm out of it. But we can never step out of the universe, right?
Right.
It's not that now we're in the universe and now I'm at work and I'm outside of it, but therefore the possibility for healing is always there 24 hours a day. And that's what we have to realize.
What do you think of the idea of, intention? Because a lot of people talk about that, it's like, okay, Reiki's only going to work if you use it with the right intention. If you're intending and you're focused on your intention and you never stop focusing on your intention. I mean, it's really hard.
It's really hard, yeah. I mean, I see it a bit like this. Of course, intention is not enough. The other day, someone was talking about it and it's okay, if that's all we need, then let's just sit here and intend all that we get pizza. Maybe it's not going to do anything, right? It's a bit of a lazy practice. And so intention coupled to action, that will give a certain reaction. And I see it also if our mind is a little bit all over the place, like a choppy sea, like with lots of waves, and I throw something in it, say this bottle, then there's no ripple effect because the waves are really stopping that ripple effect. So what are these waves? Our insecurity, our worries, our anger, our fears, our attachment, our needs and wants where we hold on so tightly. Yeah. But if our mind, through practice, if we really quieten our mind like a very calm lake, and then I drop this in it, then the ripple effect is very, very different. I was the other day, I was in Sardinia, a beautiful island, and the sea is just, it was 7 a.m. in the morning. It was just so calm. There was no ripple. And I jumped in and this friend of mine took a photo and there was this massive, amazing, clear ripple effect taking place. I didn't see it while I jumped in because I was busy jumping, but it was just such a great shot. And it really made me again think about when our mind is really clear, so no attachment, no worries, no fear, then the intention coupled with an action, right? Because I can intend that a ripple effect appears on the lake, but nothing really happens. I need to perform an action. Then that ripple effect can last for a long, long, long time. But if our mind is really busy, then nothing much happens. Yeah. So we first really need to calm the mind.
Yeah. It'd be great to be in our right minds.
No, absolutely. I think we're all now, definitely not in our right.
Not there. But wait, if there's one thing that you think is the most important reason to read this book, what would you tell people it is?
The cover is great. No, I'm just kidding.
That's a great reason. Don't judge a book by its cover.
The most important reason, I think I would, there's many people practicing the system of Reiki. There's many practitioners, many teachers, there's many different books. But yeah, for me, this is a very unique book because as much as possible, I try to really bring it back to its essence, what really is. Try as much as possible to lay bare that light of love and compassion and kindness. And I'm not saying that these other books don't do it or other teachers don't do it. But for me, through my training and my teachings, I've really felt that a lot within myself. So, I think it can be definitely a beautiful tool for lots of people. And even that it's just out in some shops don't even have it yet, but some people have already received it, what is good. And I'm already getting from people I don't know who've been practicing the system of Reiki, really positive feedback like, wow, this really helped me to explore the system of Reiki even more so, and with that, my own well-being.
Yeah, it's really in depth. And like we've talked about, and everybody knows you've written so much on the subject. How long did it take to write this?
It's a funny story. So yeah, as I said before, I'm not a person who goes and said, oh, now I need to write a book and think about it, what I'm going to write. For me, it's something like it sits there, it percolates, and suddenly it needs to come out. And so I locked myself in my apartment, woke up at 6 in the morning, started writing till about midnight. And then it just kind of flows from that space. So I wrote it in about 2 weeks.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
And for me, it's also because it is something for me within myself, and I'm already, it's like, if I also look at the book, it's something I've been teaching for a long time already. So it's not something new I try to invent or whatever. It's really coming out of that teaching space. And I described it, it's a funny description, I hope you don't mind, but no. It's a little bit, sometimes, when we eat food and then suddenly you need to go to the bathroom and you go, I need to go to the bathroom. And then you wait a little bit. Now I really need to go. And then it comes out and then you just flush it and let it go. So it's a little bit like this, how I write. I feel like suddenly there is this something in me what then suddenly needs to come out, and then I suppress it a little bit and go like, now we really need to sit down and let this just come out. And then I let it go, and then I go, yeah, whatever. I might not ever read it again myself, but just let it go and see what happens with it.
Okay, now that's a funny analogy. You know what's so funny is it is almost, it's so similar to Charles Bukowski. I don't know if you ever got into poetry or not. Yeah, Bukowski would say something like that, but in worse language.
I tried to. I'm not sure who's watching, but these days we all have to be political correct. It drives me crazy.
Drives me crazy too. But yeah, so the book, The Way of Reiki, the Inner Teachings of Mikao Sui. I wanted to say Misao Kukui, I'm like so mixed up this morning. Did you have to learn Japanese to study with these Japanese masters?
No, I'm very fortunate that this particular teacher, his own teacher was unfortunately passed away, but was very, very famous in Japan, was kind of seen as the Dalai Lama of Japan. And so his teacher had lots of foreign Catholic priest, Christian priest, Jesuit priest, all sorts of spiritual teachers from India. And so my teacher therefore was often, for example, he was sent to India as a, how do you call that? Like his teacher couldn't go. So he had to go there and speak at big conferences. And so his English is reasonable good. So yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. But so the book is out now.
Yeah.
Now-ish. It's going to be out soon it'll be out when people are watching this interview. And available on Amazon and at other book stores, book retailers. And thank you so much for taking the time to share with us, your journey, your insights, and just your wonderful bright light energy.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. And fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm just going to stop the recording now. So welcome to the Tarot Today live show, Frans Steine.
Oops.
The day of technical difficulty.
Oh, just endless technical. I have to do so much editing. I did not edit the end of that video yet. I'm going to edit that for putting it up on the channel as a standalone video on.
Cool.
Our YouTube.
Cool, yeah. And
Yes.
one thing that occurred to me is that, for those who aren't familiar with Reiki, you might be wondering what the precepts are that we were talking about. And
Yeah.
it's really simple. It's the things that you say at the beginning. This comes directly from Usui. And, there's different interpretations of it. The easiest way, I think, is just to remember, just for today, I will not worry. I will not anger. I will be honest in my work. I give thanks for my many blessings, and I will be kind to myself and others. And if you start your day that way, and if anything happens along the day that you start to get that energy of like, I'm getting angry or I'm worrying about something, remember, just for today, I will not anger, I will not worry, I will be kind, I will be honest in my work, give thanks for your many blessings. And really, anybody can work with those, and it's invaluable. It really is. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case people were wondering, what are these precepts they're talking about?
Right. That's perfect. I was looking in the chat during the interview, and Mel was looking up some of the cards that are out of print, and the lowest they found was like $298.91. When these things are out of print,
yeah,
they,
they can skyrocket. It's the same with tarot decks too. That happens a lot. And it's weird how many decks go out of print so quickly.
And that was for used. Some of them go over 500, Mel says. And Mel asked, will he reissue the card? And by the way, Mel says, I found a set. Wow.
Oh, cool.
That's really cool. Yes.
Excellent.
Well, who knows, after this interview, he might say, hey, I got to reprint these cards.
You never know. People would love that.
Yep, absolutely. That was a great interview. He's great and funny.
He's so much fun to talk to. Hilarious.
What I loved was the down to earth, where, whether it's, defecation or smoking weed, he was just like throwing it out there, and I'm like, a couple of times I did the puppy dog kind of like, what?
Right, the double take. Yeah. Like,
what did he
just say that?
Did he just say that?
He cracked me up. Yeah. And it just was so surprising to me because, kind of what he was saying about, spiritual teachers sometimes can act like, they're on a mountain somewhere, and it seems like an act, like they're so much better than everyone. He's totally, I feel like he really embodies, such a great approach to the topic, it's like he's a real person being real.
Yeah. It's, I really liked the part when you asked him about, so what is Reiki, and instantly it reminded me of, well, what is tarot, and how do you actually tell people how it works, kind of thing, it's a very similar thing. And
totally.
Oh gosh. Yeah. And I had written down in my notes here, Reiki, energy healing, crystals, tarot, weed. It's amazing. It just all goes together.
It's funny how it all fits.
It's all healing. It's all, Oh
yeah.
Gosh. Hey, so if anybody is still in the chat watching us live here, you got a question, you want to comment on the interview, or you want us to pull a card for you? If you want just a general reading, you want us to pull a card, pop it in the chat there. If you have a specific question, pop it in there. I don't know if anybody's still watching live on YouTube or not. Mel says, I need a reading. Okay, Mel, either pop in there, pull a card for me, or put in your very specific question. We'll pull some cards on that. And we also have some phone calls. The interview went pretty long, so we can only have time to take like maybe one or two of these questions, but we will be back on Thursday.
Yeah.
Let's see. let's take a phone call first while Mel is putting their question into the YouTube chat. Who's been waiting
Awesome.
the longest? It looks like area code 703. Hello, are you there?
Hello, are you there?
Oh, got a lot of echo.
Oh, got a lot of echo.
It's a continuing tech problems today.
It's the endless technical problems. Yeah, I was not hearing the person on the other end there. So if you hear this and you come back 703, we'll try to get back to you. Meanwhile, we're going to go to the caller that's been waiting the longest. 917. Are you there, caller? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Achille, and I'm calling from New York.
Okay.
Hi, Achille. What did you want to talk
So,
about?
can you guys, my love life. Just want to, I'm single, and I spoke to someone about a month ago at my gym, and we haven't seen each other since. But I felt like there was some kind of connection there. So I'm just curious.
Right, so
What's
curious-
picking up on that, or somebody else is coming around?
Okay. All right. I guess, should I go first, Dax, or?
Well, just real quick. I mean, I'm getting the magician card, so
Okay.
I'm just going to say Achille needs to just make it happen. The magician card shows up when it's reminding you that you have the power to make it actually happen. I'm getting, oh my gosh, I'm getting a bunch of court cards, Mary. So a lot of individuals. So what this is telling me, and I'm not going to focus in on one thing. When we get married, maybe Mary's got more on that particular person there, Achille, but what I'm getting is the cards are letting you know, the magician card, you already have the power, you can manifest this. I think you already know that, instinctively. And then I'm getting all these people, which to me is hinting towards not a specific person, but saying that there are opportunities just all around you. And the thing that I'm, the one card that I'm drawn to the most out of all, I've never had this, Mary, where I even pulled extra cards to see if it would stop, and I kept getting court cards. I've never had that ever happen. But the one I'm drawn to is the Queen of Cups, and it may be referring to that particular person that you saw at the gym, met at the gym. And because it's cups, I'm going to say water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. This person might be one of those. And that's the one I'm drawn to the most. What are you getting, Mary?
Well, just like you were getting a whole bunch of court cards, I'm getting a whole bunch of major cards, and they're really good ones. The first one, the Lover's card, and this is the Shadowlands Tarot since it's Halloween season, so it's kind of adorable. But the Lover's card comes up, so that's really a card you want to see on love life, followed by the Star card. What do you really want in a partner? I want you to focus on that. I have the Page of Swords. It's really adorable, but see, she has a sword in the air, and she's pointing up to that Star card. It's almost like they go together. She's like, what do you want? What is your, in a sense, if you're wishing on a star, what would you wish for in a partner? Keep that in mind. And also, since it's the Page of Swords, start talking to somebody. Stabilize that communication with the Four of Wands. Show appreciation too when you find somebody that you're interested in, and nurture it. Look at that beautiful tree. That's the Empress card in this deck. And it's just saying, like, look, it's just like what Dax said about the Magician card, like, make it happen. Choose the person to focus on. Let them, get to know you as you get to know them. Communicate. freely, openly, in a sense that you want to nurture this connection and you want it to grow. And I think you're not going to be single for too much longer there.
There you go. I hope that helped you out.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
for the call.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Have a great week.
Great start to the week here. And let's go back to the chat and check on Mel's question.
Excellent.
Let's see. Oh, Mel's on the phone. Let's see if we can. I don't know which line. Which line are you, Mel?
806. She's an 806.
Perfect.
Like me.
Okay, so we're going to bring Mel on now. Hey, Mel, where are you located, by the way?
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, Mel.
I don't know whether to get off. Can you hear
No.
me better on or off speakerphone? I'm
Off
not
can
on
hear you
speakerphone
fine.
right now.
Yeah, off speakerphone is always better.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's the same old question. I'm still confused. Mary knows what it is. I thought the relationship with B was going somewhere, and basically he went silent. So I'm confused. I'm hurt. I don't know whether to give up on this or if it's just a matter of being patient. I'd kind of like to know what is the status of his feelings about me at this time, and what's the best way for me to
deal with
proceed
it
or not proceed, or should I just give up? Yeah.
And Mel's in Texas, like me.
Oh, hey, Mel. Happy Texas.
I don't guess you could guess that from my accent. Thank
I
you.
can't. No, not at all. I totally was
No,
not.
darling, I can't understand a word you're saying.
Not a word.
Bless your heart.
You go
Trying to be
first, Mary.
Texan. Okay, I'm going to look at that. What's the best? Well, actually, I'm going to look at how he's feeling. Right, that was part of it. Where's he at in his feelings since he's gone silent? Fucking. Well, this guy, I can't wait to see what Dax gets on this guy, because this guy is a mystery. But central focus card is the Knight of Cups of all things. He's gone silent, but he's showing up as the Knight of Cups, like he went, he feels it and wants to pursue something. But it goes from right into the Hanged Man. So there's maybe where your silence is coming from. It's almost like he's delaying when it comes to like moving forward on this. And definitely delaying communication, because we have the Page of Swords that comes up first. Again, the Page of Swords. So yeah, I feel like he still feels something. He's getting in his own way again. He may be overthinking it, or thinking like, oh, maybe I shouldn't make myself so available. Maybe that'll keep her interested if she's not sure what I'm up to. But, the Hanged Man often shows like we're doing like a 180, like flip and doing the opposite. And in this case, that combined with the Knight of Cups, it's like he's doing the opposite of what he really feels in his heart. This guy's two in his head, but let's see what Dax is getting.
All righty. Get the camera back on there. I had you full screen, Mary. Woo.
Oh, there.
I can't wait till we can do the studio where I can switch back and forth for both of the cameras. We're going to start doing that too in November. We're going to have some shows where the shows are going to be dedicated to the YouTube audience. So we can try the studio out, the actual studio. I think it's exactly what you were talking about, Mary. So the first card I got was the Six of Cups. And, that's the nostalgia card. But when I look at the Ciro Marchetti version here, I almost get what would that be? Seven of Cups feeling, where it's,
No.
he's like, it's like he lives in fantasy land, right? And the sixth card shows up, which is slow progress. So, I agree with Mary. He wants too. But the thing is, he needs to, focus on the one thing, the one relationship. I got the Ace of Coins showed up. And until, and that's a very, Pentacles and coins are earth energy. So it's very grounded. He has to get here. For those watching out there, I'm going to put the cards back up again. So, okay. So he has to come from Fantasyland, the, what is that? The six of cups to the Ace of Coins. He has to get grounded for this to actually move forward. Once he does that, it happens. Look, 2 cups. And the last card, Ace cups. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this could definitely happen, but he's got to get out of his own way. He's nostalgic about something, or he's being very, Fantasyland kind of thing. And so he's not grounded and focused with that Ace of Pentacles, Ace of Coins, and, just focused on you and the one relationship.
Yeah. Thanks for calling, Neil. Hope that helped out a little bit.
Well, I just
Have a great
wondered,
week.
So the best way to handle it is just to do nothing.
Well, I'm not going to go that far, right, Mary? I wouldn't say do nothing, but really it's not, I feel like it's not in Mel's control.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
The ball's in his court, and like, I didn't get any cards like the Magician card that would suggest that you can make it happen like we did with the previous caller.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, and also, that 6 of Cups that you got, I think, it's also that, you're right. We call it the nostalgia card. You can get lost in like the sort of fantasy of what the ideal past was.
Right.
I think, his past may be influencing his current behavior when it comes to really wanting to, get this off the ground and running,
Yeah.
But ultimately, he's got to take action. He's the one that's got to take action. It's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. What I was thinking is you can let the horse know you're available and you're interested, but you can't make him dial that number. Not that he's a horse. There's no horses involved, really.
I didn't know if actually texting or something would make it worse, or it's better to be absent.
I don't think I'm not getting the feeling it'll make it worse. It might even jog, but
you should do what you have to do. The one thing in this situation is that, he's acting a little bit squirrely. It's like he's hot and cold, and I kind of feel like, don't get sucked into that and start patterning that behavior, because it's like, that's his issue. You're spectacular, Mel. You're a can't use that. Can I use that language? You're a catch. That's what I'm trying to say. You're the prize. Okay. Remember that. He wants some of this. He needs to come get it. The same.
Okay.
Thanks for the call, Mel. We got to get
you, Mel.
We are
Love
way
y'all too.
over.
Bye-bye.
We are way over here, but we'll be back on Thursday, folks.
Yes.
That was an awesome show, Mary. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. Thank you, Dax. Thanks to all our listeners and everybody watching on YouTube. We love you guys. Have a great week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Good night, Mary Ellen.
Good night, John Boy.